I recently played one of the craziest games I've ever played, so buckle up. Here we go. I open up with the English opening, c4. We saw e5 from my opponent. I went for knight c3, d6, and g3. Yeah, so far, quite normal opening, but trust me, it will get crazy very soon. We saw knight c6, bishop g2, bishop to e6, hinting on queen d7 and long castles, which actually happened in the game. I went for d3 and then queen d7, e3, just taking control. But yeah, now long castles immediately from my opponent, so we know where the battlefield will be. I will attack on the queen side while my opponent will try to make something on the king side. I went knight d5 to take advantage of this very nice juicy square on d5, and now h5, h4 to block h4 from black, and now f6, which already is not a very good move, but the way to go around the position was knight e7 to dodge any b4, b5 attacks and also pressure the knight in the center, which is a very strong piece. But it's not so easy to see, and when you play like this as black, you want to go for the attack, so f6 kind of makes sense. But my attack will simply be faster with b4. Yeah, simple move, just goes after the knight there. And now knight ge7, developing and hitting the knight. But now just b5, I hit the knight. And what do you do now? You've taken away the square on e7 for black. So yeah, and if knight a5, you can just hit it with the bishop, and yeah, there is really not so much to do. You can defend the knight with b6, but then queen a4 will drop a pawn and you will have big problems with the king when you are playing black. So yeah, knight b8 is the best what to do in this position. But I went in immediately with queen a4. And now, yeah, I'm just hitting a7, and it's not so easy to figure out what to do. My opponent decided that a6 is the best, which it is. It is quite the best in the position, because, well, the pawn is pinned, so I cannot really take. So I went queen a5, which is not the ideal way to go. What I should have gone for was just rook b1, and now it's not actually very easy to even make a move for black. Like, yeah, you can try like bishop f5, but then e4, bishop g4, and just bishop e3. As white, I should have just slow played it, and yeah, the attack will massive, and yeah, just prepare the attack a bit more. But instead of that, after pawn to a6, I went queen a5 to dodge the pin. And now my opponent took on d5 with the bishop, which is the correct move. And now I spent about 45 seconds. It was a 3+2 blitz game, so quite a lot of time for the time control played on what to do here. What I should have done here was to take on d5 with the pawn, queen takes b5, and now fall back with the queen. And yes, I'm down a pawn, but the blacking is still super weak. I can use the semi-open b and the c file for my rooks and for the attack. And as you can see, the engine still quite prefers the white side. But I was just, you know, playing blitz and didn't really care too much, so I just wanted to have fun. So instead of this capture on d5, I decided to take on a6, which is losing. Yeah, it just is losing because of the following line. Bishop takes g2, and now a7. That was my idea. Bishop takes h1, and now here we go. I got a second queen on move 15. Except, yeah, I'm just completely lost here because of the fact that I had to give up too much material. Black to the knight on d5, then the bishop on g2, and then the rook on h1 with this bishop. So that's a lot of material for me promoting into a second queen. But it is a fun position, and easy to go wrong. The move that, yeah, the move that my opponent should have played was bishop c6. That did not happen in the game. My opponent went kind of wrong immediately with pawn c5. But if bishop c6 was played, there's really not so much for me to do. Best is like rook b1, trying to generate some pressure. But yeah, then just queen e6 and king will escape, hide on the king side. And there are enough pieces to hold my two queens. Also, another thing I could have tried was this. Now there is only one move that wins for black, and that is queen e8. Because now if I take king d7, and yes, I won a knight, but my queen will be lost. It is trapped, so that's not really good. But fortunately for me, that did not happen in the game. There's bishop c6, like I said. And c5 was played instead, which already drops the advantage quite a bit. But it's still in black's favor. So I went rook b1 just to generate more pressure. And now queen c7, which is not a good move. Only move that gives advantage for black, and it is a very long and complicated line, is knight c6. Hitting the queen. Now queen b6, knight b4, blocking, disconnecting the rook and the queen. Bishop d2, queen c7. We exchange the queens, and now bishop takes b4, cb4, queen a5, king c8, f3 to block the bishop from getting back into the game. Now g5, queen takes b4, rook d7, and yeah, we get this position, which is still a mess, big material imbalance, but overall it should be better for black. That did not happen in the game. Queen c7 was played instead, and now I'm completely winning if I take on c7, because of the fact that now I can go e4 or f3 to block the defense on b7, and now the b7 pawn cannot be defended, so best is king d7, but then we see this line where this is winning quite easily with the passed a pawn and black's pieces being so awkwardly placed. But yeah, I didn't find it. I went for a different idea instead that doesn't work. I went queen 5 to a7 to generate even more pressure to these two pieces. Now bishop c6 was played. But instead of that, rook d7 was the best way to hold. Because yeah, you gotta add an extra protection to b7. But okay, instead of that, bishop c6. And that allows me to go for a very nice tactic with bishop d2. And bishop a5 is basically unstoppable to, yeah, attack queen and the rook at the same time on one diagonal. Now the best for black to do is b5. We exchange queens. Now queen a7, king c8, and now we see this line where I got two connected passed pawns, which eventually should win the game, but it's still not easy, especially as you see the time situation. But my opponent went wrong quite a bit with king d7. Now just bishop a5, b6. Now I took, and here one last position where you have to be careful not to take on b6 with the bishop, because after king c8 there is nothing better than queen a5 or queen a3. And yeah, now after rook d7, black once again somewhat consolidates, and there is only one passed pawn on a2, so it is still playable crazy position, but playable for black to hold. But I found the right idea, which is queen a7, check, and now king c8. I took on b6 with the rook, threatening checkmate. So knight d7 was played, but that doesn't stop the mate at all. I just took on c6, and in this position my opponent resigned on move 23, because if knight takes on c6, which is the only move, I delivered the checkmate on c7 with the queen. Wow, I mean, this was really a mess, because like I got a queen on move 15, and it was very bad. It was just lost, you know. Imagine how many times that this happened, that you get the queen so early and your position is lost. Like, what is that? And then yeah, I managed to win anyway. And yeah, that's the video. Really hope you guys enjoyed this one, because I did. And yeah, I see you in the next video.